Hello everyone. In this video, we're gonna start actually implementing some stuff. So in the last videos, we first designed, then we scaffolded, and we learned all the tips and tricks about scaffolding your new MuleSoft. So in this one, we're gonna go ahead and start implementing, but just for one of the methods. This is a plot twist. You're gonna have some homework so you can start actually getting used to ACB and start doing some things for yourself. So I'm going to show you how to do one of the methods, and you're going to go ahead and do the other four. On the rest of the week, I will come back next week and I will show you the solution that I came with. We're also going to learn how to do MySQL databases in Docker so we can use this database to connect and to actually start saving some to-do tasks. It doesn't have to do a MySQL database. It can be whatever else you want. It can also be like a MongoDB, or it can be even like an object store, but you need an enterprise account for an object store. So it's really up to you. I just thought doing a MySQL database locally would be just easier with Docker. So let's get started. All right, so in the last video, this is where we left off. The first thing that I'm gonna do is go ahead and remove the console because we won't be using it. And then I went ahead and created this Docker Compose file. So this is really neat because it has all of the information that you have to get running your Docker image. I also have this containers extension. Well, it's really the Docker extension, but it gives you this containers tab here. So you can come and see the images. I have MySQL latest, which was released 3 days ago. And in my containers, I already have MySQL running. So here you can take a look. I have the image, which is MySQL latest, the environments with admin, the name is MySQL DB, user password, and the port is going to be 3306. So if you have this extension installed, it's really easy because you can just open this and click on run all services, and it will just go ahead to download everything that it needs and run the Docker container in exactly the port that you asked with all of this information. So that's really handy. After you have that, I also downloaded this other extension, which is a database extension where you can connect to any of our local database, or I think any database in general. So you just click here and add the configuration that you need. In my case, it was a MySQL database. And then I went ahead and added the host is to 127.0.0.1, which is localhost, and the port is 3306. And again, here you have the other information, like the name of the database, which is here, the user, and the password. So at the beginning, you won't have any tables at all, but you can click here to get these. I already modified this file so it has the name tasks with the ID, title, description, due date, and completed, same as we had in our OpenAPI spec. So after you have this, you can just click on run and it will generate the tasks table that I already have here. So that's all the configuration so far. Now, if we get started with the actual stuff, first, I want to show you that there are different ways to keep your flows. So if you keep all the flows in one XML, it will look like this. And that's fine if you need that. Because, like in Studio, you could see all of the flows in one file at the same time, but you cannot do that in ACB. So since this is a small project, I would recommend you to just go ahead and create new configuration files for each one of these. So I'm going to go, as I said, I'm just going to do one of these and then you can go ahead and do the rest. So I'm going to focus on the get tasks because we already have the connection to the database. We just have to be able to connect and retrieve the task that we have, which is right now nothing. So I can click here on the get tasks and I can see that I have a logger. All of them have loggers. Some of them have a transform message so you can retrieve the URI params or the query params and so on. So that's really handy. So I'm going to go ahead and right click here on source main mule. I'm going to click on new mule configuration file. So don't click on new file because this will create just literally an empty file. I can show you. It has nothing. So let's right click on there and click on new mule configuration file. because this will add all the good XML stuff that we need. So we're gonna name this get all tasks. You don't even have to add the XML at the end, it will just add it for you. So now that we're here, we can select build a subflow because we don't need a whole flow, we're just gonna reference to it. And then if you click on it, you can select here the name of the subflow. So let's name it get all tasks subflow. Press on enter, very important, because if you don't press on enter, it won't be safe. And then let's just add a logger so we don't have an error here. So the logger doesn't have to have anything for now. Let's just save it like this. And then now if we go back here to get tasks, oh, this is task by ID. No, we need the get tasks here. So we can just remove this logger. You can just press on like delete on your keyboard or right click on it and select delete component, whatever works best for you. Then we're gonna go ahead and add a flow reference. So if we click here, we're gonna select the get all tasks subflow, which is the one that we just set up. So perfect, click on save. But we are not done yet. We can either create a global.xml and move all of our global configuration there or keep it here, whatever you prefer. Let's just go ahead and create a global. So new Mule configuration file, let's select global, press enter. And if we come here to the code from this other file, we can see that we have some stuff like the API kit config and the listener. So let's remove that and put it in global. Again, we have to go to the code version. Let me move this here and just paste it. So perfect. We can save this and now we can save this and we have no issue here. So now we have the global here. Let me just open my command palette and click on format document because I like to see the XML being pretty. That's just a personal preference. You will also notice that we don't have any properties. All of the configuration is right here. That's okay. Let's just leave it like that for now. Now, if we go back to get all tasks, we can start doing our implementation here. So first of all, let's open the logger. Let's add something like start, get all tasks, and press on save. So Control S or Command S. Then we're gonna add another logger at the end. And this will say, and get all tasks, save. So now we have the start get all tasks and the end get all tasks, so we can kind of see how the logs are happening. Then we already know that we have a MySQL database, so we can go ahead and press on plus, and let's select a database in the select. So we can either look for it here or we can go to connectors, database, and select the select. With that, we can go ahead, let's save. We can go ahead and take a look at the POM. Let me change this to version 4.2.0. And we can see here that we have a new dependency, which is the MuleDB connector. But we need more stuff for this to work. We will need another dependency, which is this one. So it's MySQL, the connector Java, and the version is 8.0.29. There is a latest version, which is the 33, but I tried it and it gave me an error. So maybe let's just leave it like this for now. And yes, it has one vulnerability, but that's okay. But that's not it. We have to go here to the top. And then where we have here a plugin, look at the Mule Maven plugin. And here we don't have anything in configuration. So we're going to add this shared library, which is the group ID, MySQL, and the artifact MySQL connector Java. So this matches what we added in the dependency below. So let's do DB MySQL config. And here we have MySQL database config. That's okay. And it already added some ports for us. So we can just, let me just go back a little bit to show you DB. So if you write DB, you can either select config or select MySQL config. If you don't have the MySQL option, you can also select just DB config. And then once you're inside here, just do MySQL connection. And it gives you the same thing, just shows less options. So if you can select DB MySQL config directly, that is even better. So it has the name, it has the everything here, but let's just go ahead and add them directly. So 127.0.0.1, and then the port is 3306. The user is username. And the password is password, and the database is MySQL DB. All right, let's save this. So now we can click test connection here. Oops, sorry, the user was user, not username. All right, test connection. There we go. So this is valid. So if we didn't have all of the things that we set up here, this configuration test might not have worked. So let me just double check so I can do this test for you. We got the vulnerability, which means that it's loading. So let's do the test connection. And yes, it failed. Because we need to have all the configuration, we need to have the dependency, and we need to have everything set up here in the pom.xml. So now let's go back. Let's wait for it to process. It found the vulnerability. So let's click on test. And now the connection is valid. So awesome. This works now. So now we can close global. We can close POM and get back here. Now we can select the configuration. Maybe you just need to reopen it so it loads it. There we go. And then the query, we will make it come from payload. So we can select payload right here, and we will build the query in a transform message. We don't have any input parameters, so we'll just leave it like that and close this, save. So now we're gonna be added our DWs. I already created here a folder. So if you go, let me make everything smaller, source, main, and then resources. So inside resources, create a new folder called DW. You can just right click on it and select new folder. And once you have this folder, you can start creating some files. So I'm just gonna go ahead and create it from here. So first I'm gonna have the get all tasks request.dwl. And then we're gonna have the get all tasks response.dwl. So we're gonna be using these two. I can reference to them if I do a transform message from here. Okay, so we have the transform. This is gonna be the payload, but we don't want an inline script. We want a DataWeave file. So we just have to select DW get all tasks request.dwl, and that's pretty much it. Save. We can also change these to request and press enter, and we can close this. And then after deselect, we have to transform this for the response. So transform, and now this is gonna be called response. This is the DataWeave file, dw/get all tasks response.dwl, save, and that's pretty much it. You can also change this to be something like create SQL query if you want it to be more descriptive, or you can also change these to JSON response or something like that to make it more descriptive if you want. So our code, our flow is pretty much done. Now we just have to add the DW files. So, oh my God, first DW2.o. Then this is going to be, because we're doing the request or like the SQL, this is going to be output application Java. And then first let's get the query parameters that we had in the API's request. So one was completed. This will come from attributes.queryparams.completed. And the second one was due date. So this is attributes, query params, due date. And then we're gonna build a where clause. So this where clause is gonna be putting the where so it can do the filtering for us in the select. We're gonna start just saying like, if both of them are empty, then don't do a where clause. So if is empty, completed, and is empty due date, then just do an empty string. Else, go ahead and add a space, where space, and then we're gonna go ahead and add the other thing here. So we can do a bunch of ifs to know how to exactly generate this because we have two different filters, but one trick that I have learned with the years is that if you create an array, and let's say, for example, completed equals, and then we're gonna put the variable completed. So this is pretty much gonna take this completed and put it here. If this $sign thing without parentheses only works if you just have here one variable. But if you were to have a more complex DataWeave expression, then you would use parentheses. So you can do stuff like default something, and it will create like a whole thing and add it into the string. But for now, this syntax is good enough for us because this is just one variable. So we're gonna tell it only add this string if not is empty completed. So if the query parameter for completed is empty or is non-existent, then it won't add the string to the array. And now comma, and we're gonna do the same thing for due date. So we can just copy due date, due date, due date. So we will either be left with one array with one item or one array with two items. This won't be an empty array because we already put the if here at the top. But in the case that these are two items instead of one, now we have to make this an actual query or an actual string. So we're going to be using join by space and space. So this is going to be the first part of the string, then it's going to add this, and then this is going to be the second part of the string, but only if there are two of them. If only completed is there or only due date is there, then this join by will not run, and this will be like the only thing that will be there. So we're going to have the where clause, and we're going to have either completed or due date, no end, and that is pretty much it. That is a where clause. So now to add the actual select, the three dashes, and now we're gonna do select asterisk from tasks. And finally, the where clause. Again, using the $sign syntax because we just want to attach this string here. Oof, pretty cool. So save, and you can close this now. Now let's go to the response. This one is gonna be way simpler. We have the output application JSON because we're going to get whatever was returned from the database and put it in a JSON for you to be able to read. So payload, map, and we can do some fancy code, but let's keep it simple. So we're going to have ID, and this will come from .id, but remember that our ID in the database is an integer. So now we're going to make this as string, then title, and we're just gonna map everything. Title, description, due date, completed. So just keeping it simple so we can see all of the fields are gonna be returned. Awesome. We can close this, and everything is completely set up now. We can go ahead and run this. All right, this is running. Let me make this smaller. And now let's go ahead and open our postcode, or you can open Postman if you prefer. Let's do localhost 8081/API/tasks. This is a get, and let's not send any query parameters yet. So we correctly receive an empty array, and if we take a look at the logs, we can see that we have the start get all tasks and the end get all tasks. So now let's try to send some query parameters. Completed true. Nothing is going to change because we don't have anything yet. Due date, let's do 2025-00-0101. And we can send this. Again, nothing is here. But now that we are running this application, we can debug it if we want to take a look at what's happening. So I'm just going to go ahead and add. Actually, not here. Let's add it here to see what is going to come in. And let's add one here to see what is coming out. So let's just run this again. Again, you don't have to stop and restart all your application. It's already in debug mode. So now that you send it, you can see here the Mule message is a select from tasks where completed equals true and due date equals the date that we sent. So you can press on continue, and then you will see that the Mule message is empty because there was nothing being returned from the database, which is exactly what we wanted. Now let's take a look at what happens if we only send one query parameter. We should be able to see the new query. So select asterisk from task where completed equals true. Note that there are two spaces here, and that is perfectly fine. We just have to remove one of the spaces because we added two, right? Because we have one here and then one here. So we can just remove this one, for example. And then another thing that you can do, let me just press on continue here, is if you have any changes, you can just use this hot deploy option to run this again. So for example, if I were to add here, hello, and save, and then press on hot deploy, this will take just this file and send it to the runtime. So this is easier than just stopping and restarting the whole application because it will save you time. And we can see started app. So we can run this again. Let me just remove, here, all the breakpoints or disable them temporarily. We can send this. And now if we take a look at the console, we can see the hello. So now let's see something interesting. If we put the breakpoints back and we send this, what do you think is going to be here on the select? Will we have the new space that the space that we removed from the DW file or not? Let's see. Select asterisk from task where just one space completed equals true. That's really interesting, right? Because the DW file is in another file. It's not on this XML file, but it still did it. So that's really cool. We didn't have to stop and restart everything. All right, so we were able to confirm that this is working. So we can stop this application now. So let's do a quick recap of all of the changes we did for just one method so you can see what you have to do as a homework for the rest of the methods. We added a global.xml. This you don't have to redo. You can just use this one. Actually, you don't need to change anything here now because we already have the db config. But yes, we added this db config, we added this whole file, we added the get all tasks subflow, which only has this, so it's easier for us to navigate. We went ahead in this part. First, we removed the console, but you don't have to do that again, just once. And then we went into the get tasks flow. We removed everything that was here, and we just left the flow reference to the subflow that we have from here. So you will have to do that for all of these ones. You will have to create the XMLs here. Again, because it's a small project, we can just do that. So create the remaining 4 Mule configuration files with the names here, and then do the flow reference from the 4 remaining flows here to the new flows that you created. Now, something to take a note of: when you are creating the other flows, go ahead and take a look at the database module and take a look at the operations that you have available. You have a delete, an insert, a select, which we already used, but you will have to use again, and an update. So take a look at those 4 and make sure you use those. Then the other thing that we did was to create 2 different DW files, one for the request, one for the response. Why are we doing this? Because this way the XML will look cleaner, since we just have this and this. We don't have actual code being written here in the XML, which makes it better looking in my opinion. And you can also open the command palette and do the format document to make it look even prettier if you want, or you can just leave it as it was, whatever works best for you. Always, always, always remember to save everything. So Control S or Command S, because otherwise it's not going to save it automatically for you. And finally, we did some changes to the pom.xml that you don't have to do again. You just have to do this once. We changed the plugin version, the configuration, added the shared library, so we can use the dependency here for the MySQL connector Java. I believe this is pretty much just the JDBC that is going to be like used for the DB connector, but I'm not 100% sure, so don't quote me on that. All right, we did it. We created some code in ACB and it wasn't that bad. I hope it wasn't that bad for you. All right, so for the next video, let's come back and try to see what we all did for the rest of the implementation, and we can compare some notes and see if what you did was the same of what I did and so on. Also, if you already have your Git, you can also see your changes from here, so that's pretty handy. That way you don't have to like keep track in your mind of what you changed and what you didn't change. You can just come here and see all of the changes that happened in the file. So that's also pretty handy. You can just go ahead and take a look at these. That's what I will do for the next video, so you can see what my changes were. All right, that is all for this video. I will see you in the next video. Bye.